Welcome to the Field of 68's After Dark. We got a great crew for you tonight to break everything down. We got Sean Miller, Archie Miller, Robbie Hummel. We got a hell of a game right now. Duke is up 75-73 with a little over 2 minutes to go. And this game, guys, has been as good as advertised. I mean, the first couple Big Zags games were absolute train wrecks. But this one has been terrific and kind of good to see because I think we needed this. You know, over here on the East Coast, we're staying up till 10:30. We needed something to kind of get us going. So, Sean, what has kind of stood out to you the most with this game so far? Kind of going back and forth. Paolo was sensational in the first half, but honestly, you know, Gonzaga had to be pretty fortunate, Mark Few, going into the break only down 3.
Yeah, for sure. What stands out for me, Jeff, is, you know, when you look at Chet Holmgren, it's easy to see his offense. I think you really have to look at that as much about his defense as his offense. I mean, what a difference it is for Duke scoring in the second half versus the first half. Him getting 2 quick fouls and missing the time that he did really impacted this game. And obviously, Paolo, his just individual performance in the first half, I mean, if there aren't a lot of players that are going to play better in a college basketball game of this magnitude than he did in that first 20 minutes. And I think that, you know, the last part is it also shows Gonzaga's depth. Julian Strother, who a lot of people aren't talking about, like, I mean, he's sitting right now on 20 points and he's having an amazing game. There's a lot of different players on the Zags that can beat you. It's not just Chet. Obviously, we've talked about Timmy, but the collection of talent on Gonzaga's team is parallel to the guys in the white jerseys, and that doesn't often happen.
No, it's been a heavyweight fight. I mean, it really has. And Arch, you're not surprised that Duke came in here and was ready to go. I mean, the crowd seems about 50-50, but I thought they did a great job early of making life difficult for both of Gonzaga's big two at the time, which were Drew Timme and Andrew Nembhard. Those are kind of the guys that I think you got to slow down, and they did early.
Yeah, you know, the thing about Duke is as much hype is around this game. Every time they play, it's like this, you know, and whether it's going to be at Ohio State next week, it's going to be the same game. Whether it was Kentucky in the Garden early, it's the same game. And, you know, I'd be hard pressed to figure that Coach K doesn't have a calm team sort of coming in here ready to go. But early in the game, you could tell that Duke's talent was different, that Gonzaga hadn't seen that type of size, athleticism, and talent. When they were converting early in the game off misses and turnovers, they were scoring right with them. They have the size to kind of deal with them in and around the basket. And they were really, really sticky early in the game in terms of being able to not let Gonzaga move the ball, reverse the ball. So no surprise from Duke. I mean, in general, this is kind of like Duke's bread and butter, these type of games. So they're right at home, in my opinion.
All right, let's just kind of watch the end of this game and break it down, Rob. As you're watching now, these final minutes, any of you guys can kind of weigh in as we watch Joey Baker foul there. Duke up 1, 1:11 left, all sorts of foul trouble. Rob, what have you seen down the stretch here?
I've just been so impressed with Duke's guards on both ends. They've lived in the paint. I mean, they get to the paint, and they've done a good job of spraying it out, finding guys, getting multiple penetrations. But then defensively, they look like the Duke teams that I played against. We've seen Duke go to like some 2-3 zone, some BS defense.
No question, Rob. You're right. You're right. I totally agree. Yeah, I totally agree.
Screw you. We're more talented than you. We're more athletic than you. We are going to make your life miserable. We'll take you out of what you want to run. And I thought it kind of knocked Gonzaga back initially. Now they've found some rhythm and whatnot, but that really stood out to me. That has not been there the last couple of years.
We talked about this a couple of weeks back, Robbie.
Oh, what a play.
In 1-point game, but the combination of the two centers at Duke, it isn't just Williams, who in his own right is terrific, but the fact they can sub in John for him. I mean, you talk about defense. I mean, being able to protect the rim and really allow these guards to get up after you. I think they have a huge upside on defense for sure. Great drive.
Jeremy Roach, who has struggled all game and probably for me, the biggest question mark for Duke coming into the season.
Wow.
No, here's the thing though. Gonzaga, Duke right now is playing the side pick and roll game. Nobody's in the corner. So you have the dribbler and then you have the high screener. That the last drive wasn't this, but Gonzaga's played it two different ways and they really can't find a way. Like they've hard hedged and they've plugged. And Robbie made the point, you know, Duke's guards, if you plug, if you don't come out there and hedge, they're turning the bend and they're good enough to score and make plays. Not just one of them. Very few teams have 2 and 3 guys that can do that. If you hard hedge, the guy who rolls is a good player, and there's just not one of them. There's multiple guys. So in its simplest form, their side pick and roll has really been problematic. And what I would tell you, no matter who Duke plays, that's what you're going to start with. How in God's name am I going to defend that? Gonzaga has really been hurt in tonight's game on that right there.
There's some guys out here that have gotten so much better. Wendell Moore, Julian Strother, I mean, guys that have played lesser roles, and all of a sudden, this is as bright as the lights get. And those guys have been phenomenal.
Yeah, I think
both
Wendell
coaches-
Moore
Both
Moore
coaches have
reminds
to be
me.
happy with their teams. I mean, coming out of this, obviously you want to win the game, but to me, there's so many
And Williams,
positives
you see
on
the play,
both sides.
Jeff? You see the play though, like Drew Timmy doesn't miss that shot very often. Well, he didn't just miss an easy one. Mark Williams is just different. You just don't score on him like the rest of your schedule. And the fact that Duke doesn't have just Williams that they can sub in with John, if you think about it, Banchero never has to play the 5. So keep in mind how big and physical he is. So the size and the quickness of them, I think it allows them to be defensively how they used to be. And I would be surprised as you follow them the rest of the season if you don't see them become a top 5 defensive team. And usually if they're in the top 5 defensively, they're making a run at the national title.
Well, point being, Gonzaga has 17 turnovers tonight. Andrew Nemhard has 6. And Drew Timmy has 5. You know, those guys don't play with those type of turnovers in a game, but 17 turnovers is a result of the talent and the athleticism that's out there.
Duke up 82-79 now with 18.8 left. Duke's ball. I think honestly, I think as much as anything, I think Wendell Moore's been the key. I mean, Paulo
I was saying earlier to you guys, Jeff, that Wendell Moore, he's back in my time where Chris Carrawell, as a junior and senior at Duke, was the ACC Player of the Year. As a freshman and a sophomore, he was a role player on great teams. Wendell Moore, in this day and age, as he came in as a freshman, people look at him like he was wasn't good enough, or he was a little bit doesn't have this, doesn't have that. And you're just seeing the natural progression of a good player at Duke kind of do what they always did. It's just a different time.
Takes a lot of pressure off.
And guess what? Drew Timmy's a junior.
Yeah.
Like Drew Timmy's not a freshman. So
I
Gonzaga.
think this, to be honest with you, this
That's
may
something.
be one of the oldest years in recent memory. There's a lot of old players playing well, good teams with old guys out there for a change.
There's Robbie Hummels all over college basketball.
Robbie was a super. Hey,
Just won
Robbie
there
was
by
a
20.
super senior before there was
Hey.
ever a term.
That's his friend. What can I say? I made this possible for all these guys. You know.
You were the.
Let me ask
you
you
were the
though,
first
Robbie,
super
I got to
senior.
ask you this question. Each spring, I hope, because I coached against you when you were a freshman, you were a great freshman. I hope you sat there and said, Painter, I want to know what's going to be different in my role next year as a sophomore if I'm coming back to Purdue. And then after your sophomore
The
year,
conversation was
I
not.
want to know what you said to him after your sophomore year. This is exactly what it needs to be for me to come back. Like, is that how it went all 4? Like, did you
Yeah,
do that
me
3
and my-
times?
Me
or-
and me and my dad, we were really pissed about my role. I
Right.
was used to get to play. Like I was literally like, I'm getting minutes on this team. Like this is crazy. Like, no, we were not having that conversation.
Hunter Salas in the game now. They got both freshmen, Hickman, Salas. Timmy's off right now.
You know what I
Duke
find
got a lot.
remarkable watching this game? I go back to Kansas. I know they had a tough loss earlier today to Dayton. But if you really call it what it is, and you look at the talent level of Duke 1 through 10, the talent level of Gonzaga 1 through 10, I mean, not just who they've become in their respective programs, but who they were in high school, like what they were ranked coming in, like what type of prospects they are. I don't think there's any comparison. And I say that to Bill Self's credit. And I think like, I don't see Dayton being able to beat Duke and Gonzaga on a neutral court right now. You know, it's just, it's kind of remarkable to look at the talent level of how Gonzaga's evolved to be where they're at.
Well, that's the thing. You look at it and you're like, honestly, there's equal talent. Now, I don't know if Mark View's ever going to have this again. That'll be the interesting thing.
Yeah, Nolan Hickman just came in the game, and I know he was in earlier for a brief minute, but he's one of the top 3 or 4 point guards in his high school class. So he's a McDonald's All-American. Was Hunter Salas a McDonald's All-American?
Yeah.
Top 10 player.
So I want you to think about their roles on this team.
Right.
And I think that says a lot. And we've already talked about Duke. And I think, Art, your point on Wendell Moore is so well taken because, you know, he's not only highly coveted and a very good player, but, you know, he's no longer a freshman. He's not only there for 9 months, he's been around the block. And I think that makes Duke even better.
Think about this about Gonzaga. This is pretty crazy. In the late 90s, they were on the same trajectory as Valpo University. They're like 6,000 people, kids that go to school there. They go to the Sweet 16, and now they're this. And Valpo is the Beacons. But it's pretty amazing, right?
It's your fault. By the way, it's your fault. If you had gone to Valpo could have been Gonzaga. But instead, you
and Scott Martin just needed to walk across the street and everything would have been different.
Downtown. Hey, I cried when I called Homer Drew and told him I wasn't coming. I was devastated. I was heartbroken.
I'm sure he cried when you called him too. So what else was it? I mean, how much of a factor?
Yeah, this
was
is a
it
big
that-
point here. There's 17 seconds.
Yeah.
How quick Gonzaga can shoot and score is everything because the game's so far from over. But, you know, you look, they got the ball with 17. Great job. Look how slow it's been. Now 5 seconds.
Great
They
day.
got it down. They got it all that is 6 seconds. Back to our defensive comment about Duke. They shoot it with 4 seconds. You know what they usually do is they run it coast to coast and shoot a layup, right?
But Wendell Moore just turned him 3 times.
Yeah, so
So-
they caught the ball full court at 17, and they turned 17 seconds into a desperation heave from the left wing. Most of the time, Gonzaga is going to get a quick score. It's Duke.
They go
Duke-
zone? Did they go zone?
I don't. That's a good
I
question.
think they picked up full court.
Moore picked up the ball, but they might have fallen back into a 2-3.
I thought they fell back. 2-3, 2 possession game, right?